We rise from the ashes, roots in the ground, rooted and resilient, power in our speed.
Hello, and welcome back to the Rooted and Resilient Voices podcast, the space where we make room for honest conversations, healing, resilience, and faith. I'm your host, Jasmine Rush, and I'm excited that you are here with me today. Today's guest is Ashleigh Aviles, founder of Empowered with Ash, a faith-driven wellness and coaching business dedicated to helping women strengthen their relationship with God, their bodies, and themselves. With nearly a decade in the fitness industry, Ashleigh has transformed her approach to health by placing God at the center of everything she does. Through her journey of surrender, obedience, and faith, she now empowers women to pursue wellness as an act of stewardship and a pathway to living fully in God's purpose. Please help me welcome Ashleigh to Rooted and Resilient Voices. Ashleigh, thank you for being part of the Rooted and Resilient Voices community. Let's get rooted.
Yes, Johnson, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And I just got a little chills with that intro. I'm like, ooh, that felt so good. So thank you so much for having me on. And I'm so excited for this opportunity to have some great conversation with God at the center and just share some of my testimony. So thank you so much.
Amen. Amen. I'm so excited for you to be here. Actually, listen, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, and if you would open us up there, we'll take us a little journey.
Perfect. So, as Jasmine said, I have been working in the fitness industry for almost a decade, which is wild to think about. And looking back, like almost 10 years ago, when I came into this space and I was in college studying exercise science, I was a completely different person than I am now. And my faith was not nearly what it is now. And so just to see God's hand on everything is crazy because often in the moment, we don't know what he's like leading us up to. And in hindsight, now I'm like, oh my gosh, everything was just like a part of his perfect plan. But back 10 years ago, when I did enter this space, I was much more body focused. My body was truly an idol in my life. It's easy to see that now. I think in the moment it was so consuming. I had an eating disorder paired with, right, like having that body image obsession. Like most women, we have some of those childhood wounds, childhood traumas that kind of create what our relationship with food looks like and relationship with our body looks like. And to me, it was really like a means of control in my life. I can see now. And so when I entered this space, although I loved helping people and I loved being able to be this source of bringing people joy through movement and nutrition. What I can see more clearly now is for myself, yes, it brought me joy, but it was also something that was all consuming and it was done for the wrong reasons. So kind of fast forward through getting my bachelor's, getting my master's, getting into the field more in depth into my career, I basically hit a point where my journey had gotten so toxic that I actually ended up getting injured because I was underfueling, I was overtraining, I wasn't giving my body enough rest. And this injury at the time truly felt like I was just being like kicked down on the floor. Like I felt like my world was ending because my identity truly was in my body. My identity was in my career and truly like everything in my life revolved around those things. So once I didn't have that, I was like, oh my gosh, what do I have? So I really was like humbled in that moment. And what's so cool to see now is just the rebuilding God has done from that humbling. And now I'm in a space where there's so much gratitude for having been humbled in that way. And it's truly one of the best things that could have happened to me because I think God knew at the time I wasn't going to surrender those idols of food, of my body. And so he was like, okay, say less. We're gonna we're gonna force you into it here. This is what this girl needs right now. And being kind of quote unquote forced into those lifestyle changes for the first time, I was able to find fulfillment like outside of my body outside of that control with food. And it made me realize how much fullness of life I was missing and like how much living in my purpose I was missing. So then when I did release those things and I was forced to start making lifestyle changes, start having a healthier relationship with food, all these things, I worked with some different coaching mentors. And this is actually around the time I decided to start my business. I wanted to help women learn how to walk in their purpose. And at the time, I still was, a believer in my faith journey. But for me, so faith was something I found, in my adult life on my own. It wasn't actually until years into my business that I started putting God at the center. So that's something that has been the best change ever. But when I first started, truly, I was doing everything in my quote unquote own strength, right? I was doing it more for my glory. I was not doing it for God's glory. Yes, I was doing it to help women, but now I can see, having like made him the CEO of my business, having changed, now he's the center of this. This truly is so women can walk out God's calling for their life in the best way, like have the most strength, energy, capacity to do it, and basically be obedient to the best of their ability in all God's asking them to. And when we don't have, we're not stewarding our body and mind in the best way we can and giving it like our best, we're not going to be able to walk as faithfully because it does impact that, right? So anyway, fast forward, now we almost 4 years in business, and this year has been the year that I have completely transformed to God being number one. So it's been phenomenal over the years helping women create change, in their lifestyle and be able to live these fulfilling lives without restriction, without making it their idol or it being all consuming. And now with the faith lens, it's just the sustainability, like doing things through a faith lens and through God being number one, the sustainability and the also just path we can take is even stronger than what it looked like before. And so anyway, very long intro, but that's a little bit about me and basically like what brought us here today.
Okay. A couple things as you were kind of like pulling us into your story. One of the things that you mentioned was about like your mindset towards food. I'll call it that because I don't like naming certain things, but I'll just call it your mindset towards food. What was the one thing that made you know that your mindset towards food was unhealthy?
Yeah. So I think it's funny because, like, when you're in it, it's harder to see than when you're out of it. So for me, from a young age, like, so I grew up with a twin sister, and yeah,
My
which
husband's a twin.
oh, is he? That's so
Yes.
yeah, because you don't find it all the time. It's funny because we had, like, 7 twins in my grade in school, and I feel like that's so abnormal, but I guess, like, growing up, really being a twin, like, it's not that, but it really is unique. And growing up, like, we had very different body types, and I was definitely, like, bigger than her, and so growing up, just coming out of the womb straight into a place where people already are gonna compare you being twins, for me, mentally, my body image was a big focus because I knew, hey, this person I came out of the womb with, same time, same age, same everything, right? Like we're already getting other people comparing us. Like I look nothing like her. Something's wrong with me, right? Like these are the thoughts as a young girl kind of going through my head. And so for me, from a young age, that is kind of what was the initial spark for me being so body focused. And with that, what did I believe could help me be body focused or like me kind of maybe step into a body I thought at the time, right, I was going to feel most confident, comfortable in, while of course trying to like shrink myself and trying to, make sure I was doing everything right, right? Like doing everything, as healthy as possible and, eating all the right quote unquote things. And so for me, it being rooted from a younger age, these were the thought patterns I started to have that carried into adulthood, right? And my worth was kind of being tied into that. So, and I also found as I got older that if I could control those things, I could get like, at the time, positive attention from my body. People noticed the changes. And so it's like funny now in hindsight because I'm like, girl, I wish you would realize like you didn't need that validation from anyone. You need God's, approval, not people's. So I think a lot of it was subconscious early on where I didn't realize these thought patterns were abnormal. And I look at a lot of the clients I've worked with and they don't necessarily see it as abnormal until we kind of get a little bit older, right? And it starts to, really consume. And so I think some of the ways I thought, some of the ways in my brain, things that were unhealthy that I can see more clearly being out of it, that maybe in it I didn't realize. One, food consuming every like thought and decision. Like I didn't realize that wasn't normal per se. So when I am going out somewhere, a lot of thoughts are about my body and if starting to feel sick to my stomach if like, oh, if I eat this cookie, right? Like it's going to like this is bad and I'm like failing and I'm so stressed about it. So I think just even the emotions and anxiety that would come with making decisions about food is a red flag. So like if I always tell clients and tell people online too, like if food is consuming your every thought and those decisions are bringing up a lot of anxiety and stress of making the right choice, like that in itself shows us that we have a problem, right? Because food shouldn't be that intense of a driver in our lives for everything, right? So for me, I think like in hindsight, that, and then a lot of the symptoms that came from the choices too. So from like under eating and being in that obsessive space, like I would experience a lot of brain fog where my mind would just go blank. And I tell people this sounds so silly, but I would literally just thought like at times I was like not smart. Like I just thought like it was really just I wasn't taking care of my body the way that it needed to be fueled and taken care of. And, always feeling fatigued, feeling really sore all the time, from overtraining, not eating enough food, sometimes having those like mood swing. Like I'm always been a happy person exterior, but internally I had so much anxiety all the time. And it's so cool because God has truly freed me of all these things I'm listing and freed me from that anxiety, which
Yeah.
has been so powerful and amazing. And part of him freeing me from that, obviously he's the ultimate source of peace, but
Amen.
part of him freeing me from that was also me releasing these idols and me also changing these lifestyle patterns because how we do fuel ourselves and how we move our bodies does affect everything. And it affects
Yeah.
how we feel on a daily basis. And as mentioned, how we're able to show up. So it's also cool. Like one last note I'll add is just the capacity of the relationship with God. Like the capacity I can hold to have such a strong relationship with God now, I could have never had back then because when your idols are that big,
Mhm.
it's you don't have space for God to be that big too, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I think that's another red flag is like if there's anything in our lives, even beyond health and wellness, but that we are fixating on so much to the degree where it's pushing God out, like, that's a
Yeah.
huge sign too, and again,
Yeah.
I can see these things more clearly now because I am a totally different person in a totally different space, but that's my goal is to help women be able to heal it so much faster than me and, like, have the blueprint because at the time, I wish I knew someone who was like, "Hey, this is not
Yeah.
healthy." Like, "Hey, I can help you," and, really, as mentioned, it took a big humbling to get me there that I'm very grateful for that. So, long answer, but hopefully I didn't get
No,
too on a
no.
tangent.
That's good. That's good. I have kind of two questions there, but I want to kind of go back to your introductory. You said that you found the Lord in your adulthood. And so I'm curious what that journey is. But before you answer that question, I am really curious what the humbling was.
The humbling?
Yes.
Yeah, so the humbling was basically When I was in grad school, actually. So it's funny because I feel like I was eat, sleep, breathing, like fitness, wellness, which, yes, like we want to be taking care of our body and prioritizing
Yep,
our
it's a
health.
temple. Mhm.
Yes, but again, it's like I'm a very passionate person, so I just say, like, that's a gift God gave me, having the
Yeah.
the passion, but it can also be a fatal flaw if you go too hard with it, which is something I always did growing up and for years, and I would put my sometimes passion into the right things, but you it's like we can almost take something God intended for good and turn it into something that's not so
Mhm.
good. So that's kind of what I was doing because I was studying exercise science in school. I was, living out the lifestyle I was preaching, doing it for work. Like it felt so all consuming. And so at the time, I was truly training like every day. I was never really taking a rest day. I was eating for sure, but I was mainly eating just like protein and vegetables. I wasn't getting many carbs and fats in there. And that's what kind of tanked everything is I got to a point, I remember there was this like one day where I was working out and I felt like this sharp pain in my arm, in my forearm. And I was just like, okay, like we're good. Like I really felt invincible at the time. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like anything I did, like I just felt invincible. So I was like, okay, this is fine. And then I think later that week I was working out again, excuse me, and I felt a sharp pain that I was like, oh, I cannot ignore this. Like this hurt really, really bad. Like it was very sharp, very painful. I was like, "This is not good." And so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go, to the doctor." Well, after that, everything felt like it really felt like it almost like quote unquote like happened overnight. Like everything kind of moved really fast where I actually started losing just all the strength in my forearms. So I had a severe case of tendonitis, which is essentially like when you overtrain or you overuse a certain part of your body, right? And for me, it was my like grip strength was giving out from like lifting weights and doing all the things. And so I remember I like couldn't even grip a dumbbell anymore at the time. And I couldn't even I remember I had to carry in for work like these like, grocery bags of food for this event. And I wanted to start crying because I also was carrying, I think, like an iced tea jug or whatever. And I wanted to start crying because it hurt so bad and I couldn't even lift that. And so I went from feeling like I was so strong, like so like, I mean, in hindsight, so into myself, like, yeah, I had a humble exterior, but I think internally, like I would always be humble outwardly, but like looking back inwardly, like, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to preserve this body. I have to preserve, how I look. Like I had this, the six pack, all those things. And to me, I guess that's what I had always worked towards and like wanted, right? Like, so I had it, but it's so funny because I was so insecure all the time, thinking about my body all the time, wondering what others thought of it. So it's like, I didn't really have the confidence. You know what I mean? I just was, really into preserving that and like the fear of what would happen if I didn't preserve it at the time. So for me, knowing, oh my gosh, I can't work out, like I can't, like that was terrifying. And so losing that grip strength completely. And I remember going to the doctor and she was like, yeah, like it's some cases could last years, like it could just last months. Like it's very individual. Like you're just not going to know. Like you basically have to rest it. And so I then started being, really cautious. I couldn't really do a ton. I remember getting all these like weird sensations, like pins and needles feelings in my body. And it was just a really weird time. It was really hard because I had identified in my body and my fitness level for so long that I'm like, oh my gosh, once I don't have this, like it's kind of like, who am I type of thing? Like, and at the time I was losing so much muscle mass because I wasn't training. And so at this point, I was already because I had trained to a point of getting myself to a certain leanness, then when I couldn't preserve muscle mass, I basically was like, I don't want to say skin and bones, it's a little dramatic, but I look back on videos and pictures and I'm like, oh my God, like I look so frail, I guess is the word for,
Wow.
especially for me and my
Yeah.
body type. Like,
Yeah.
and like I always like to remind people it's literally healthy to have a healthy amount of body fat. Like it's good for us. Like we need that. We were created to have that for a reason, you know what I mean? But that's a whole other tangent. But at the time, of course, I was not thinking like that. So for me, like you really didn't see much fat mass, you didn't see much muscle mass. And looking back, it's so crazy because looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I looked so small. But at the time, I remember being fearful, like asking my roommate, like, does it look like I'm gaining weight? Do I look like I'm, you know, and it's like I would never, and I think like the way like I talked to myself too, it was crazy like how we can speak to ourselves because I was like, am I getting fat? And it's like no woman should ever be talking to themselves like that, nor would I ever condone a woman talking to themselves like that. So it's funny that in my own head to myself, thought it was okay to do that. But that just shows you how powerful our mind is too when we do find our identity in something, or it's just like if somebody finds their identity in their career, right? Like no matter what it is, it's a little dangerous if our identity's not in Christ. And so
It
that's
is.
the biggest difference, right? Like now is my identity is in Christ these past few years, and how much I've changed. And that's how he honestly brought me to bring my business to be for his glory instead of my own. But yeah, so that was the humbling. That was the humbling was that injury. And I ended up after that injury because I was living in outside of Nashville, Tennessee at the time, working there and going to school there and working at their campus rec. And so I ended up moving here for like a gym manager job in Virginia and like moving back home. And it's funny because that's when like me and my husband met. And it's so funny, God's plan. And that's where things really just started to transform. COVID happened. So for the first
Yeah.
time, I wasn't like body checking. I wasn't like, because I was, nobody was really going anywhere. Like when I lived in Tennessee, they treated it like COVID didn't exist. So when I moved home, I was like, "Oh no, we're doing this thing for real." Because like here it's different. Like, so when we moved home, I think actually too, it's like I for the first time felt like, okay, I'm in this relationship where this person unconditionally loves me. He's not focused on my body the way that I always was focused on. And he had a healthy relationship with food. And I was like, this is really like crazy. And so that I think God, placed him in my life at that perfect timing too. And so that started allow me to see things differently as well. And like I said, just being in that COVID space where for once I was like, oh, like don't even have to be out here trying to prove anything to anyone. And I think that actually in an odd way was like a positive that helped me kind of disconnect a little bit more from all those things being such a big priority, I guess. So
Yeah.
I was still, taking care of myself, but it just was really different. And so I felt really lost kind of coming out of that because I was like, okay, if I'm not like training as hardcore and I'm not, hyper fixating as much, like kind of what am I doing? And so like slowly, I was able to start eventually getting back into weightlifting, but still I felt like I was not anywhere close to the strength I had before. And so I ended up actually hiring a coach who coaches coaches, and she helped me kind of like I had to like find myself again in
Yeah.
those capacities, but this
Yeah.
time in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started my business and I started coaching women to also make those positive changes. So it's cool to see kind of the trajectory of like in our most humbling moments, we can feel like, oh my gosh, this isn't fair. Oh my gosh, like what's happening? And sometimes God's writing some of the best parts of your testimony and he's
Yeah.
actually pulling you to your true like purpose. Like now I think of like my purpose is not, yes, it's to help women walk stronger in their calling and their purpose and have more capacity, but it's also to make heaven crowded, right? Like I realize that's more what I always used to think it was like, oh, my career is my purpose. And now I realize it's like as many people as if we can all get to heaven together, like that's my purpose. And I'm gonna cry because it's just emotional, but it's like I want this business, like if that's what this business legacy more so is it allowed other women to walk more in their calling and faith so that they can help bring more people with us, right? Like then
Yeah.
that's more than what I could ever want in the past. I think in the past, I was like, well, what can this do for me? Like, of course,
Yeah,
what can this do for others? Like, of course, that was
absolutely.
always a main, but also it was, again, in hindsight, because in the moment, you don't think you're thinking like this. But now that my mind and heart posture, God has transformed it more, I can see it was like, well, what can I get out of this? And
Mhm.
now it's and like, what can I build for myself? And now I'm realizing with God and in as the CEO and in the driver's seat, it's like, well, what does God want to build out of this? Like, what is He bringing? What is He doing? Like, He could be preparing me for something totally different. He could be preparing these women for something, I don't, it's in His hands now. It's not my choices or decisions. It's okay, God, what do you want me to do? And I'm going to try. We're human, so we're not perfect with it, but I'm going to
No,
try
we are
to
not.
be obedient as I can be, and trust your plan is always greater than ours. So, okay, many tangents. So I'll cut
You
myself.
you went on a bunch of them, but I enjoyed them. I followed. I was tracking, and I hope in your tangents people were able to take away things for themselves, right? Like that's always my prayer. This phrase that you make is so powerful, making God the CEO. Extremely powerful. And I think it was like 4 or 5 different things you said. I wanted to like jump in and say something, and I'm like, "No, I'm gonna let her keep going. I'm gonna let her rip. I'm gonna let her just go here and just keep cooking. That'll be fine. It'll be fine." What do you think making God the CEO looks like practically in your decision-making process for someone?
Yeah, I love that so much. So, what making him the CEO looks like is you're surrendering your plans. Like, I know God has built a lot of different skills in me over the years and a lot of knowledge and all those things. But I think in the past, I would be like, well, so I worked with a lot of business mentors, which I do think God brought a lot of goodness through that. However, most business mentors, what is their focus? It's on helping you make more money. Like it's also on helping you build a business. Like if you get a good business mentor, which I'm blessed that I've always worked with really amazing women who really cared about me and my business, but if you get one who's focused on the right things, they're also going to be like, how can you build a business you love and a business that gets your clientele like the best results? You're helping them in the way that they need help, right? Like
Yeah.
that the main focus. But also, like I said, a lot of times some of the different things they teach you in hindsight, again, that's our word of the day. I don't wanna say it's like you're there it's trying to get sales. It's trying to right, whereas if we look at it from a God lens, it's like, how can I serve these people? That should be
Right.
the number one, not how many sales can I get? How much money can I make? And so I think being in those containers, even if it wasn't intentional on anyone's end, I think that just the more worldly way of doing business, a lot of what I learned. And so I last year, God actually told me to step away from mentorships. And at the time, I was like, what I didn't realize is I had kind of been seeing mentorships and these mentors as the answer to everything. Like, oh, how I'm going to keep building my business, how I'm going to keep building quote unquote success, right? So, like last year, God told me go. And this was when my obedience was getting a lot stronger. And I actually got baptized last year.
Yeah.
As I was like, "Okay, God, I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna do it." And I literally told my family, I was like, "I have no idea, like, why he's telling me to step away. I'm not sure it makes sense," but I had worked with mentors for years, so without stopping, without pausing. Again, because in hindsight, I think I always thought they were, like, the answer, and I was like, I didn't believe I could do it without them. And then when I let go, it's so crazy because I think I was so fearful of what would happen, and excuse me, that's when God actually revealed so much to me. And he revealed that like I have been, he really revealed to me like that I had been, obviously what I just said, like counting on them as being kind of the answer. But I also was doing so much in my own strength and that my own, I guess, priorities were at the center, not his. And so he started showing me the more I was leaning into him just in general on my faith journey, obviously then I didn't have them. I'm like, okay, God, like I remember actually one of my good friends who's almost like a spiritual mentor to me that I've known for years. She said to me, she's like, Ashley, and this was actually what kind of sparked that CEO comment. And she was like, who's a better CEO of your business than God? Like he's going to be the best one. Who's the best business mentor than God? He's going to be the best one you ever had. And I remember that stuck with me and I was like, that's so good. Like that's so good.
Mm,
And so I know, and I would start going to him for decision making instead of just being like, well, here's what maybe a mentor taught me to do,
right.
or here's what I would have like asked them.
Yeah.
Instead, I feel like the best way to hear God sometimes is to totally drown out the noise
Yeah.
and step away from all that loudness, right? Because I think of over the years being taught to do something a certain way, I did, again, a lot of skills that I think are God aligned that have been helpful, but there's also a lot of things I've had to start unlearning of like, doesn't feel as good now knowing, like following what God's telling me to do. So
Yeah.
back to your question of like, what are practical things? One, making God the first thing you do, or spending time with God, making it the first thing you do at the beginning of the day, right? That's something we strive to do regardless of being a business owner or not. But in business, it's like literally having those meetings with him of God, like, where are you leading me? Or, talking to him all the time in business. So, if I need the strength for something, God, give me the strength for this. God,
Yeah.
give me the clarity on this. I now pray. When I go on calls, I don't try to convince people. I don't try to objection handle, which is what mentors kind of teach
Teach
you to
you.
do.
Yep.
And of course, they teach you to do it if it's someone who's a good fit. It's not like we want to like force people against their will or anything.
Nope.
But what I've even learned is to stop doing that and just and it always felt kinda like, like at times, yes, people might need to be coached through certain fears, and that's like
Yeah.
different. I feel like that's
Yeah.
different because
Yeah.
that means sometimes because you're trying to do something that helps them at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
There's a time and place, but there's a
Right.
difference between coaching someone through fears and maybe not giving someone else the space to make a decision. So even in the sales process, it looks like, "Hey, I'd get on a call. I like to call them like discovery calls. We're like making a connection. Like, let's chat. God leads at the end. Like, you pray on it. You talk to
Yeah.
God. If it's the right decision for you or not. And just like, like I'm just here. Like, it's like there's no pressure. And let me tell you, just all the changes have felt so absolutely freeing because I'm like, this is like, it's definitely hard unlearning because you're fighting against everything you were taught. And you're like, it feels like, should I be doing something else or doing a follow up or doing this? And then I'm like, no, like, this is what leaving space for people to choose, right? Like whether like where God is telling them to obey and for them to choose what path of obedience are they taking, right? Like maybe he's telling them not to, maybe he's telling them to. That's on their
Their journey.
responsibility, yeah,
Yeah.
their journey. So it looks like business meetings with God, spending time with him, and spending time in the word in the mornings before opening your laptop. Obviously, we're going to have human moments where we open the laptop first, but the goal is to get to him first and set the foundation for the day. And I can always tell the difference on a day I fall a little short there versus the days I'm seeking him first and just the days if I ever start to feel a little anxious about something or trying to figure something out, I know it's like I'm not including him enough. So it's definitely like it's a practice. Like you have to
Yeah.
constantly be choosing to include him in everything and asking him like, "Well, God, what do you think?" And also like pausing and praying sometimes, not just being quick to act. I think it's a balance. Like sometimes God does want you to just obviously he doesn't want you to wait for perfection for anything, but so there's times where he's just like saying move and if he says like when I first started this journey in changing my business, at first, he just told me I just felt called to share more about him on my Instagram page. And so I had like one toe in, like one foot in, the other foot out, to be honest, in the sense like I was scared to niche it down because I didn't want to exclude people. And it was scary. I was like, I don't know. And so I remember I would just post here and there like about God on my page, which is something I hadn't done before. And fast forward and I took some more time in actually solitude and time to be just with him because it's like, God, what do you want me to do? I got to the point where I was like, God, I surrender this business to you. Like, even to the point where, even though this means so much to me, if you tell me to move differently, like I will. Like, and it was the first time I actually meant it. Like, those moments of true surrender. Like, you can say it, but it's another to actually feel it. Like, I'm genuinely
Absolutely.
putting this in your hands. Like, this is no longer in my hands. And so I was surprised when he said, because I was like, if you need me to even give this up and walk away, and this is before I made the changes of integrating faith. And so then I said, give me a sign. He's giving me signs left and right, but then he gives me this neon flashing sign because I think he knew I needed it. And I was like, okay, say less. And so from that moment forward, I just started, I was like literally post on my page, like something new coming soon. Like and put the date or whatever, like I committed to it. And then I started making content that included him more. And just from there, I kept just like doing the things he told me to. And it was scary. All of it was really scary. And launching it was scary, starting it was scary because I was like, I feel like I'm starting from square one and I'm almost mourning my old business in a way. This, I know wherever God's leading me is going to be better. And I've already seen the fruitfulness of just the fulfillment and the peace and all these things that like you want in business. You want to feel peaceful, you want to feel fulfilled, and
Yeah.
any selfish motivators not being the motivators anymore. It being
Yeah.
like, God, I trust, do what you wanna do with this and help you need me to help with this and work through me. And yeah, so that's some of the practical and then just some of me, just being passionate. Expressing.
Listen, I love your passion. Your passion is definitely being put on display today, and I appreciate it. Let me ask you this in one sentence,
Oh gosh.
okay? So this is going to require you to put your passion in a point.
Yeah.
What has God taught you that no business mentor ever could?
Oh, that's such a good one. That's such a good one. He is the foundation of everything, and with him, things are sustainable. I
I
think that's
love it.
a good one sentence to sum up. Because I think if he's not the foundation, it's not gonna be sustainable, and if he's
Come
not the
on.
foundation, everything else will crumble, and I
Yep.
wish somebody had taught me that when I started my business, and I
Hmm.
had a Christian business mentor who could be like, "Hey, God's supposed to be the first, everything else is supposed to be second."
If I could maybe just insert this, and this is your podcast episode, not my podcast
Oh,
episode, but
please,
I
I
will
would love
just
to
say,
hear.
like, one of the things that I've learned in the years that I've done business, and I've done different types of businesses, and some of them have failed. So I've taken lessons from those, right? And one of the things that I have learned in that is that sometimes the teachers come when the student is ready.
Yes, that's so good. I agree.
Yeah.
No, that's so
Yeah.
good. 'Cause I don't think I would have been ready for it, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest, years
Yeah.
ago. It's
Yeah.
like that's why they say, right, like, God only, like, shows us the next step, not the whole, like,
Mhm.
staircase. Because all the staircase, we'd be like, "What?" Like,
Mhm.
we'd freak out because we wouldn't really, maybe we might not yet be the person who can hold that or carry that yet. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think my faith was not where it is today, like, almost 4 years ago or 3.5
Yeah.
years ago. Like, God built that faith through the past few years, stronger and stronger each year and closer to him. And I always say, like, I think I knew of God, and then the past few years, I actually know God intimately, and there's a difference. You know what I mean? Like, when you know
Absolutely.
of him versus, like, actually having a relationship with him, and I didn't
Yes.
realize how different those 2 things were
Mhm.
until I had that closeness with him where everything I'm doing, I'm like, "God, thank you for this." I'm, like,
Yeah.
talking to him all day through,
Mm.
random points of the day, and yeah.
My, when you just said that, one of the things I thought back to is how many times people will say, "Yeah, I believe in God. I believe in God." And I'm like,
Yeah.
because not in a judgmental way,
Yeah.
but in actions and reality, our tree bears fruit.
Mhm.
And a relationship, when you're being discipled, shows different fruit from when you're not being discipled, right? Okay. And so as a person who has learned what discipleship is way later in my walk with Christ than I could have ever learned it, I will say that knowing that the Lord exists, having the personal relationship with him and being discipled to be held accountable for the fruit that comes from your life is very different. And so I definitely get that. Let me ask this. I got two more questions for you. What scripture has been an anchor for you through this obedience journey? And what is one step a woman can take who feel like God's calling her into something bigger,
That's
but
good.
she doesn't know what to do or how to take the first step? What would you tell her? So obedience, and how would you encourage somebody in their first step?
Okay, I love those questions. So the first scripture that pops out to me is I actually would need to see exactly what the verse is, meaning like the which book it's in, but I'd have to look back. But I am the vine and you are the branches. It's like remain in me. Basically, I wish I actually have like my Bible right
I
here.
know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I
I
wish I
moved
could
my
quote the
keyboard
whole
so I
thing.
wouldn't type. So because I get this like wanting to type thing
I
habit,
know,
so I
I'm like,
moved it.
"Should I pull it up real quick?" Because I feel like that whole passage
Yeah.
essentially speaking on how, like, God is that center and everything else, all the fruitfulness, basically everything we just talked about comes from that, and we cannot produce it on our own. Okay, yeah, I don't know if this will let me, look it up real quick so I can quote the whole thing. Okay, perfect. Okay. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into fire, and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. I just pulled up my Bible app, so I'm not sure what version that is. I think NIV, but I have the Christian Standard Bible in there, but it would just take longer to pull that up. So I pulled it up on there.
Yep.
But yeah, that one to me just keeps standing out because again, we can't do anything without him. And I think
Yeah.
when it comes to practical advice, I guess for somebody who does want to step into obedience but isn't sure how, is drown drown out the noise and actually like be with God and take a pause and what he's going to tell you to do. Obedience is often the hard thing. It's not the easy thing. It's the uncomfortable thing. It's very rare in my opinion at least that obedience is like sometimes it might be easy and aligned, but a lot of times you're not going to know the outcome. You're not going to know right, like what happens, and it's not going to be the easy choice. So, a lot of times, God has already told you what to do. You're just avoiding it. And I think even with my story, like I had one foot in, and then when he gave me a big flashing neon sign, I put both feet in. But did I really need the neon sign to put both feet in? Probably not. Like I probably could have started it earlier. But even I dipped my toes, even having one foot in. Yes, it was partial obedience before I did full obedience. But I think even that, if we can just like, I didn't know why he was telling me to share about God on my page. Like, I didn't think I was gonna change my whole business to it. I was just like, "Oh, this is like what is my life right now is like my closeness to God. That's like a huge part of my life. So I'm gonna share about it because it feels right. It feels easy. It feels natural." And again, like I didn't think that he was gonna tell me. I didn't think I was then a few months later gonna be like, "God, I surrender my business to you," and him being like, "Okay, do it for my like." Here now we're going to do it this time, run it back, but this time for my glory, and I'm going to be at the center. And I remember that that spiritual mentor slash friend, she had said, before you had your faith and business separate, now they're together. And she's like, that's why you feel so much more at peace. It's like you're not trying to separate these two things in your life. And for some people, it might not necessarily be bringing faith into their career or business. God could be asking you to obey in a totally different way. It's like, it's going to be unique person to person, but drowning out the noise, pausing, and again, a lot of times the first step God has already given you. So instead of overthinking it, just act. And, again, yes, there's a time to pause and pray, but I think sometimes, or I'm so sorry. Yes, we want to pause and pray, but sometimes we get so in our heads, and like a lot of times we're seeing through the lens of our human, like maybe we're scared to do something or we're scared to step out of our comfort zone. And so sometimes we just have to take that messy, as they say, action, because God has been telling you to do it. And I know, like, before I got baptized, I was overthinking so much. Discernment, am I hearing God's voice? Is that I realized, like, after getting baptized, I feel like it was just so much easier. Discernment was so much easier. And I realized, like, it if I'm overthinking it, like, I'm already not kind of listening to God, because then it's like my own I'm not giving space, like, and when I take that time to drown out the noise and, like, all these other people are telling me and just be with God, then getting in the word is so important, because there'd be times I'd be like, "God, what are you trying to tell me?" And then I, like, open the word for the day wherever God guides me in, and he literally just tells me through this passage I'm reading exactly what I needed, or
Yeah.
like, and so I think if that's the other thing is if you're struggling to have discernment, hear God, or feel like you don't know what the next obedient step is, get in the word, because you can't
Amen.
do it without that, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
that's something I started doing last year and am almost finished reading the Bible. But I remember when we got baptized, he was like, ditch your devotional and just go into the Bible for a week. And then I never went back to my devotional, which devotionals are great. I'm
Yes,
not,
they are.
but
It's a tool.
I think for me, it's been like a nice challenge of like, okay, well, what am I taking from this? Where's
Right.
God leading me in here? So
Yeah.
my other advice is get into the word, because you
Mhm.
can't really hear him that clearly if you don't have that. This is our life manual, right? This is
Yeah.
when you think about business, this is your business guide right here too.
Yeah. Final question for you. There's so much I wanted to say there, but I'll leave it here. What does it mean to you to be rooted and resilient?
Think what it means to me to be rooted and resilient would be to have your foundation and identity in Christ. That's the rooted piece. I think when we can have that, and that looks like pursuing our intimate relationship with God, right? Like getting in the word, talking to him like he's our bestie in our car, at our work desk, all the all the things, including him. And I think from him, like he's the one who gives us that resilience. So I think us being rooted in all that, and we need to keep being rooted in it, because I think day-to-day life will test you, and life will test you. We all know this, right? And so the resilience piece is knowing like God's got us no matter what life throws at us, and he is going to help us keep getting back up. Um and so when we're rooted in him, we can be resilient, but also to keep pursuing him and keep being resilient with it, even when and intentional, even when life throws its curveballs. I don't know if I took that. I'm sure everybody answers that differently. I don't know if I
Everybody answers it differently, which is why
did.
I love to get the answers. I love to get all of the answers. I think the Lord is leading me down a path. I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly where that path is right now, but I have heard out of you make the 21st interview I've done, I believe. This is my second season, and that is the 21st different sort of response.
Yeah.
Similar, but very different.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different response. So I don't know what we're doing with that, but I'll be listening to the spirit. And I wanna close with this. Sometimes resilience isn't found in pushing harder, it's found in surrendering deeper. Ashleigh's story reminds us that when God becomes the center, he doesn't simply improve what we've built, he transforms it completely. And so I want to thank you for joining us for this Rooted and Resilient Voices episode. Ashley, please tell the people how they can get connected to you, ma'am.
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram. I am at empowered underscore with underscore Ash. Yeah. And that's actually the best place to find me right now. So you can follow me there. And
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you again next time. Stay rooted. Thank you for listening to Rooted and Resilient Voices. If this podcast episode blessed you, like, share, and leave a review. Until next time, stay rooted in faith and resilient in purpose.
Unbreakable.